We've got flags and banners, and if you mind your manners, we might even get to standards and what they represent. So just take my voice's hand, and we'll both try to understand how this vexillologic podcast could be flagged for content. Flagged for content.
What's up, Vex Heads, and welcome to episode 8 of Flagged for Content. We have got a super exciting episode for you guys today. I am really pumped for this one. I'm recording this intro after we've already recorded the episode, and I've even already edited it, which, one, is a hard thing to say, and two, is kind of a hard thing to do. But we did a live episode this time, which was a little weird, but maybe easier on the edit? I don't know. You tell me. I actually would like to hear everyone's opinion on the live episode, or the in-person, I should call it, episode versus our normal ones over the internet. But in any case, I'll get down to it. We don't have a whole lot of housekeeping to get out of the way today. Really more or less just the Instagram contest. And the Instagram contest winner this week was at Cleveland Flag. And if you don't know Cleveland Flag, they are an account that is really pushing for the city of Cleveland, Ohio to get a new, better, different, you name it, flag to replace the current thing that they have as a flag. It's not one of the worst flags I've ever seen, but far from the best, and it's got some very outdated symbols on it, which they take you over in their account. So, yeah, go check out at Cleveland Flag, and hey, thanks for playing. They weren't the only one that answered. And yeah, I don't think I really have that much more to go over today. Just let's go ahead and get straight into the episode. We have got a great returning guest for you this week. You know him from the Boomer Memes podcast. You know him as a stand-up comedian, and you may know him as a failed musician. It's Ian Sharp.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's kind of a late arrival, but I got to be a diva. I got to show up. Who wants to show up to the party on time,
Yeah, right? Like we for those of you who have listened to the little 4-minute clip that I did release on Friday, we had tried to record this during the week, just a day after we recorded Boomer Memes, because I was the guest on that this week. And it was kind of a no-go, and I just had a really busy week, so we never got around to it till now. But yeah, that gave me more time to do research and everything, so it wasn't the worst thing in the world.
Right? That's what I'm here for. That's why I come in clutch.
Exactly.
But don't worry, no rush. Take your time.
Yeah. No, you did come in clutch, because we're also recording this over at Ian's place, which marks this as the first live or, in the same room recording of Flagged for Content.
Yeah, this is I call it the Boomer Memes compound.
Yeah. So yeah, we're making milestones all over the place. But yeah, like I said up top, I presume in the intro that I'm going to record later, we have a great show for you guys. There are going to be a lot of flags that I know I have a fairly large, well, I'll put it this way. The listenership that I do have is fairly local, and you guys are going to recognize probably all of these, as are you, Ian. So, yeah, when we were recording Boomer Memes the other day on last Monday, a week ago as you hear this, you mentioned, kind of before we got to the end, you talked about flags when you were talking about Pantera.
Yes.
We were having a metal conversation, and you brought up the rebel flag, the Confederate flag.
That's correct.
And I said, oh, we're going to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Well, little did you know that, yeah, that was my exact plan. So we would have had the perfect synergy had the episodes actually both released on Friday, but other than that.
Last time I was on the show, we talked about pirates, and this time we're talking about a different kind of people who like to thumb their nose at authority, I guess.
Yeah. Different kind of lawbreaker, to put it very, very lightly.
Yeah, and they both, I'd say that like neither one should be your hero. They both are questionable Halloween costumes when you think about like all the context.
Yeah.
One's more
That's true.
One's more obviously questionable. I guarantee there's going to be a bunch of pirates running around. Children dressed as pirates. You're like, that's probably it's a little grim now that you think you know more about how they operated.
Right. So let's go on and get into our first flag. As you know from having been on the show before, the first one is one that I'm going to describe to you in vexillologic terms, and then you're going to have to guess, although I think you probably know in this case. So here we go. This first one is a crimson cross of St. Andrew on a field of white.
Yeah, so I'm going to be pretty good at this because, as you mentioned at the top of the show, I'm a failed musician. But during the time that before I failed, I was a pretty successful one. So we toured a lot, and being from around the Southeast, we toured a lot around the Southeast. So I've seen a lot of these flags all the time. That's Alabama.
That is Alabama. I'll insert a sound effect here if I remember, but yeah, nailed it. It's pretty simple. I mean, even the description, some of the descriptions I've given on past episodes have been very lengthy. This one is one sentence or sentence fragment almost. But yeah, so any initial, before we kind of get into the symbolism and things like that, any initial thoughts?
It just always, I mean, like, I know some really rad people from Alabama. I've never really enjoyed being in Alabama. Anytime I see just a big red X,
yeah, right.
it's always like warning, no entry. You
exactly.
know, like that sort of thing. So that's kind of like where my head goes when I see that.
Yeah, no, I my first thought was like they had on their ballot or something, like one of those ones where everybody gets to vote, kind of like this thing that happened in Kansas, recently. But they must have had on their ballot, like, do you want to design a new Alabama flag and then put an X in this box? And everybody put an X in that box, and they were like, wait, we're on to something.
We thought we were voting that, yes, we wanted to do. We didn't know that was, we were supposed to draw what we thought it should be.
Exactly. We didn't know this. Yeah, this was like a week's long homework assignment.
It's like, it was almost the green check.
Yeah, basically.
It was just by a narrow margin. It was almost a completely different man. Wouldn't that be weird? It's like, yeah, I don't like going to Alabama, which they have the big green check.
Big green check. Yeah, that would actually be, I don't know if I would like that flag more or less than the way it actually turned out, but we can go into a little bit of the symbolism. The first couple, actually, before we even get into the symbolism, the first couple things that I found about it that were pretty interesting were more in just like the rules of like how it's made, how it's displayed, stuff like that. I know like on several episodes we've gone into like, this flag can't be lowered to half mast legally. This flag, blah, blah, blah. This one has a rule that the red X, like the diagonal lines going either way, have to be at least 6 inches in width.
So you can't make like little small miniature ones?
Basically, it precludes that.
Yeah.
In a purely legal sense.
And that's width, not length. So like that's how thick the...
Yeah, which it might even preclude like a 2x3 flag. Like
it
might only have 3x5s, but I just thought that was very interesting because no other, like, normally in flag codes it's measured as a ratio, like the thing going this way must not be larger than 2/3 of the thing going that way or whatever. But this one just says 6 inches and they called it a day.
Well, you know, it's like they say, it's just Alabama thick. That's where that term comes from.
Hell yeah.
Alabama, it's, thick like the bars on our flag.
Yeah.
Alabama thick. That's my Alabama accent. I know it's not a good one. I'm not an impressionist.
No, me neither by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, it was that, and the other thing they specified was, or actually I should say this, the thing that they didn't specify when they adopted it was what shape it should be. So it wasn't even necessarily rectangular, wasn't necessarily square, but, it could have been a pennant, it could have been anything. It just wasn't specified.
I feel like if it was like a roundish shape, like even like an octagon or like just even a circle, it even more looks like a no, stay out sign.
Yeah, it'd almost be like the Buster, like on like the Ghostbusters logo.
Right. Yeah, like if you were to just put that over, like, hey, this is the sign for vote no on this, and it's vote no on Alabama.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
I was gonna say, I think there are a lot of people that would vote no on Alabama. Myself, yeah, I'd have a hard time with that decision as well. But yeah, I just thought those things were interesting because they clearly weren't very forward thinking with it. And, you know, this is kind of the time where you can get in your like Alabama education jokes a little bit. Now they're like, I don't know, man, 6 inches and it's got to be A shape.
Well, it's probably just like someone bought like a surplus of 6-inch paintbrushes. And so they're like, we got to get rid of these paintbrushes. And so like, all right, we'll make the rule so that when someone's painting the flag, they have to use our brushes to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's big. It's a big paintbrush. That's who's really behind it.
Probably. I mean, yeah, probably with several of these flags, and definitely a few of the flags in our Ugly Flags episode a few ago. Does the design, like I was going to say, as far as like now we can get into the design aspects, does it remind you of anything specifically?
I mean, you know, not really specifically, other than just like, I imagine like if you were being, if you got knocked to the ground by the KKK and then 4 of them were standing around looking down at you. It kind of looks like that.
Like using the negative space?
Right.
Yeah. And it's like the golden hour or sunset and the red sky.
You know, they always got the burning cross.
Actually, that's true. That's true.
The red sky.
Fuck, dude. I have never even thought about like the negative space in that. Yeah. Wow. Now I can't unsee it. You put a little eyes on
yeah. It's stay out, but you know who they're talking to.
Like. Right. Well, yeah, there's that's not quite the answer I expected you to give, but honestly, it was way better. The one I expected, and the one that's like kind of more commonly heard anyway, is that it reminds them of the flag of the Confederacy, or specifically the battle flag.
Yeah.
The one that's just
It's like a more simplified version of it.
Yeah, exactly. That one that I'm showing you on the screen now, except that one is a square, which the Alabama one could have been because they didn't specify it first. But yeah, there's a lot of debate on this actually about whether the Alabama flag is supposed to kind of conjure up the Confederacy and their contribution to it or not. It's weird, like when you read, I mean, we're on the wiki article now, which doesn't have nearly all the information, but I read out like from a few of the links that it does have on there, and it's really split. Like the Alabama, I forget what his position is, but like Alabama Historic Commission, the guy who heads that says that he hasn't seen anything specifically that leads him to think that it's based on the Confederate flag. But then there are a ton of other people that are like, look at it. It like
yeah, that's definitely true. It feels like it's like, look, it's the same but different. It's ours, you know.
Yeah. Well, the argument that they use for like it can't be a Confederate, like, you know, an ode to the Confederate flag is they would have made it look more like the Confederate flag if they were doing that.
Well, but also like you'll stump me on this one because I don't know much about like I've seen stuff about it before, but I've never been such a huge fan of the Confederate flag that I committed any of it to memory.
Yeah.
But like I assume like all the stars mean something, and like the specific like colors mean something. So it's like if they don't have the same, you know, points of reference specifically for Alabama, it makes sense why they wouldn't make it more similar because they're not drawing off the same, you know, I'm trying to think symbology or what, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I do know. I'm pretty sure the 13 stars are. I think there were 13 Confederate states. I know it's like coincidentally the same number as like on the first U.S. flag and the colonies and all that. But I'm pretty sure, and like they may have gotten creative with the counting. I can't remember exactly because like I think Kentucky and Missouri both had like rival governments, at least during the early parts of the Confederacy. Like they had both governments claiming to be the legit one or something. My dad will know this, and I'm sure will text me when he hears this. But yeah, I don't know. It does conjure up the Confederate flag to me, and I don't know about the argument of like, well, they would have made it look more like it. Like it'd be hard to make it look much more like it unless you just remove the stars and switch it to like red and blue. I don't know. And the other thing being like that cross is, what did it say up top? I think it's the St. Patrick's cross. Oh, Cross of St. Andrew. Yeah, the saltier, the X. It's not like a whole lot of like Scottish, like St. Andrew's like the Scottish patron saint. Not a whole lot of Scottish heritage in Alabama, I don't think. I know there's a bunch of Scotch-Irish in Appalachia, but I don't know how far into Alabama that.
Yeah, my general assumption is that a lot of the South is that's where a lot of, you know. But
I guess that's fair.
But I know I've got a lot of German in me, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I know like Appalachia specifically was Scotch-Irish overwhelmingly, which Alabama, like Appalachia like dips into, but just barely. But it might be. It very well could be. And even though it's a cross of St. Andrew, which is the Scottish patron saint, the cross of St. Patrick, I think like the part that's on the British flag is pretty much exactly this. So yeah, they may claim that heritage. But
maybe it's clever and there's like multiple meanings wrapped into one where they're like, hey, this means this, but also this.
yeah, that's the thing is like you can't really find that much on the symbology or symbolism behind it, like really here.
Nah, it was just, look, we got a bunch of red paint and a bunch of 6-inch paintbrushes.
Yeah.
We just got to get this done quick.
Yeah. The thing that people have pointed out is the historical era in which it was adopted, which it was adopted in 1895, which is part of a larger historical era that I kind of know about called the Lost Cause era, at least in the South here, where there was a bunch of like, I guess like revanchist kind of sentiment of like, well, we wouldn't have lost if only this thing or that thing or whatever. So it was during, what did I say, 1895? Where did I even write it? Yeah, 1895. Like that's when they're passing a lot of the Jim Crow laws that for some reason they didn't pass earlier somehow. So you can kind of see it as like I don't know. We'll get to another flag later that does the same thing during a different historically fraught era in the U.S., of which there's many. But I don't know. The fact that they changed it around then, it's the saltier. Yeah, again, I think we're going to come to the same conclusion as this article does, that it's up in the air.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I thought we were going to settle it once and for all.
Yeah, right on here, on Flagged for Content. No, I don't think we're going to be the ones. It would be nice, though. We'd get like a little notation or whatever, like a little 8 in brackets or something.
Like, hold on. This seems familiar. My grandfather left me this book, and I pull it out, and you're like, oh, my God.
Yeah, yeah.
Your grandfather designed the Alabama flag.
Yeah.
He would never. Not in my family. It's like,
no.
You have a dark history, sir.
Yeah. And yeah, we can probably start to move on to the next one. But like I said, how there are some people that view this one as, well, if they wanted to make it so much like the Confederacy, they would have made it more obvious, right? That leads us into the next flag, which I'm actually not going to pull up on the screen. I've got here in person, which I don't know how well this will translate to audio, but I guess about as well as anything I do. Can you see that?
Yeah, I know what flag that is.
You know what that one is.
That's the Whitechapel flag.
Hell yeah, dude. Knoxville, Tennessee, baby.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's the Tennessee flag.
Yes.
The only state I've ever lived in my whole life. I ought to know that one.
Yeah, it is, in fact, the Tennessee flag. And I'll bring up a version that isn't draped over a chair right now. But could you go ahead and briefly describe it to those who may not know?
So it's mostly red. I can't. You told me all the terms to describe the different parts of it, but it's like a red background, and then along the right side there's like a blue bar with a white border, and then there is a blue circle with a white border in the. I guess it's the center of the red. It's not the center of the flag, but it's the center of the red part of it with 3 white stars.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly it. And since you know this flag, do you know the symbolism behind it?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the 3 stars are for like East, Central, and West Tennessee.
Yeah, East Tennessee, Middle, and West. Yeah.
And then I don't know anything else. But I assume, Confederacy. Hey, no, red, white, and blue. It's patriotic.
It is technically the same red, white, and blue as the U.S. flag and not the Confederate flag. I looked that up, like the Pantone and like hex codes for them.
Wonder if it was like used to be different, and then they changed it when things went a different way, and they're like, well, we're on this team now.
That is entirely possible. I don't think they've changed the colors, but they have changed the design. And in the interest of just kind of starting at the beginning, we'll go back historically and start with the first Tennessee flag from 1897 to 1905. It was this thing.
Man, that looks like some kid did a really crappy, like 5-minute Photoshop job where like, I need a flag, and like, here you go.
Yeah. Like I know we bring up like MS Paint a bit on this show and everything, but I mean, this is not even paint really. This is.
Yeah. It looks like it was made out of like construction paper and like a glue stick.
Do you want to describe it really quick?
So it's a rectangle. It's certainly that. And then there's like a diagonal. There's a diagonal blue slash running through the middle that looks like it makes up about a third of the total space. And then the part that it's separating to the left is red. The part that's separating to the right is white. It has in yellow the volunteer state. Not even like the alignment choice is so weird.
Yeah, because it doesn't even align to the corners necessarily.
Like if it was going opposite, that would almost make sense. Or like, I don't know, like it's just so, you got the 3 sections, why not the volunteer state?
Or even, and
or do that. But whatever, they decided to do it the way they did it. And then there's just a 16, I guess that's in blue in the, or is it, I can't tell if it's blue or black.
I think it's blue, yeah.
Yeah, and that's in the white.
The fact that you can tell doesn't speak highly of this flag, or can't tell. Yeah. And do you know what the 16 is?
Was it, I guess, the counties at the time or something?
16th state to join the Union.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the first one. That was from 1897. So again, that same era as Alabama was adopting the other one. Although this one isn't terrible. But it only lasted from 1897 to 1905 when they changed it to the current one that we will mostly talk about. Well, exclusively from this point on, because I don't want to spend another second on the other one. But yeah, I don't know, like, opinion-wise on the design.
Yeah, I've never been like, never been like a giant, huge fan of it necessarily. But now after seeing the last one, man, I think we did pretty good.
I think we lucked out.
I think we did pretty good. It is weird. It feels weird to me that the blue stripe is on the right side, which means that when you would hang it, it would be waving at the end of it. Where it almost feels like it should be like a margin where the ropes meet it, if that makes sense. It almost feels backwards. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's meaning behind doing it that way. I don't. I'm also bad at art, so I don't know. I can't just look at a painting that's not directly, obviously what it's about and be like, I think it means life
and like interpret. Yeah,
it's a rebirth, is what it symbolizes.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah, we can get into that. The blue like side on the fly there that hangs down it's for a specific reason, and it's so that like on a non-windy day when the flag is not flapping gloriously in the wind and it's kind of just laying limp like that, it won't just look like a red flag from certain angles, so that it'll have something else that kind of distinguishes it when it's just flopping there like that.
Because red flag usually means like warning or danger.
Yeah.
Not like the big red X from Alabama. But.
Yeah. But if it's like, hanging at a certain like angle, if there's some way that like the TriStar thing in the middle is like obscured or whatever, that way you can at least see that it's not an all red flag.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because generally like that will be visible. The blue stripe will be visible regardless. Yeah, and that's pretty much the only thing behind it. It's on the fly side for that explicit reason and nothing else. There's no symbology behind it.
Okay, well, if it's honestly like something practical, I can get behind.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's only practical, not really anything else. I think it adds a little bit to the design. If it were just the TriStar in the middle, I feel like I would like it less. But I don't know.
Well, it's like Whitechapel made it into like a saw blade. That was pretty badass.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that I wanted to bring up was like, I think we're pretty lucky in Tennessee in that, in my biased opinion, we have one of the top 5, definitely top like 7 or 8 flags in the U.S.
Like for branding purposes, especially because it's such an easy thing to like replicate. Like, I mean, like just a sticker. It'd just be an easy sticker to make, or like, and you just look at it. Being from here, you look at any circle with 3 stars on it. Even if the colors don't match or it's out of context, you're like, oh, that's representative of my home state. I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of orange and white,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Flags
for
like that.
Go Vols. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's like, I think that's one reason that we lucked out, like you said, because as a logo, even if you cut out the red and, because again, and we'll get back to this, like it does resemble a little bit the Confederate flag, especially in colors and overall design, other than the X. But it's, for branding purposes, like look at my shirt right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've got
it's like a Tennessee flag, but instead of stars, it's like some kind of plant.
Some kind of plant from some company called Farm to Med that you can look up.
Oh, man, I plug them all the time on my show.
I was going to say, them. I didn't even put the two and two together until I was putting this shirt on today to come over here, which I wore for this exact reason.
I have some of their flour if you want to try it afterward. I don't know if I can say if you want that on your. You can cut it out if you don't, but
That's fine. It's legal.
yeah, it's
You
legal.
bought it here. It's what, THCA or whatever it's called?
Yeah, I think that's. I always forget. I thought it was like 2 or B, and then there was like, no, it's A. I'm like, okay,
Oh.
and then it's I'll say this. It's good that we have a legal product here in our home state. I wish it was all legal, but I've definitely I've lived many years and I've experimented with a lot of things that aren't legal. And I think this legal variant
Allegedly
is very comparable to the stuff you'd have to buy from, the Jimmy with the dreads.
Yeah.
That's who everybody in town I know gets it from. Jimmy. He plays the bongo drums in the park.
Oh, yeah. I know the guy. Yeah. I mean, allegedly. Yeah. Or you'd have to get it from one of the states whose flags we're not talking about today.
Right.
The states that make a little bit more sense with their cannabis policy. But anyway, enough of that. But yeah, like just a point to like say, it's so like good for branding. Like the Titans have it on their helmet, a version of it. Like I think they turn the stars slightly. Any new like overpass that's constructed? Have you been noticing this? Yeah, they put it in there and sometimes they paint it too.
Yeah, I've seen it painted, which I mean I think it's a nice touch. Except my only criticism is like it's gonna look crappy like when the paint chips off in a few years. Like
probably.
like already like concrete structures develop detritus and stuff, and they don't look so great if you're not like pressure washing them on like every few years.
You don't think Tennessee will spend the money to do that?
Well, considering that the reason that they're putting up the new bridges is because one of them fell. One of these new overpasses are a result of like, well, I guess we better go in and fix them all.
Yeah, our track record on, I mean, you name it, infrastructure, education, like we're going to shit on quite a few of Tennessee's neighbors today. But the reason I included Tennessee is like we have to take our licks too. Plus, it's a cool flag.
Well, it's, we're the volunteer state, so we were just waiting on someone to say, "No, I'll fix it."
Yeah, yeah, basically. And we were waiting a long time. Its nickname is the TriStar flag, and there's even companies like kind of what we were talking about, like TriStar Beverage. That's like one of the big, like beer suppliers in the region anyway, or in the state. And yeah, I don't know. I think we have a very brandable flag.
Wasn't there a movie company in like the 80s called TriStar Pictures?
Probably.
I don't think they had anything to do with Tennessee. Tennessee in the 80s was not like the hub of entertainment.
No. Like it is now.
Right.
Well, I guess it kind of Nashville's getting that way now.
I mean, we're the home.
It's been that way.
We're the home of the blues. We haven't been in at least any of my lifetime, but.
Yeah, but we don't advertise the home of the blues nearly as much as we advertise the country in Nashville.
Right.
I wonder why.
I don't know. It's probably has something to do with just like general public interest because I know like generally I love country. I don't like the blues.
Oh sure, as a man, I also like that. Yeah.
I'm kidding. It's the opposite. I like some country, but I'm like not none of the new stuff coming.
Yeah, no, fuck country, especially like radio country. The old shit, sure. I would have loved to be in. I don't like Nashville that much now, and I think Tennessee is going to be the biggest segment of this show, so we can like riff on this. But like Nashville now, I don't know. It's just way too touristy.
Yeah, I mean, like I've heard multiple like it's been a recurring joke forever that it's like the destination spot for like bridesmaids and like a not like a bachelorette.
Oh,
parties.
bachelorette parties, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like doing comedy. Like I mean, granted, every time I've done comedy in Nashville, it's been like more on the east side. So it's like it's more of the artsy kind of area with the hipstery more type people.
Yeah, it's got cool places.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, and so like that side is East Nashville's like pretty rad. But like if you get into the heart of like downtown Nashville, it's very like all the bars are like packed with like people that are wearing cowboy boots that don't live in Tennessee.
Yep. The cowboy boot thing alone is so weird to me because like Nashville, like I know there's such a thing as like country western, but like Nashville's nowhere near like anywhere you would need cowboy boots.
Right. It's just part of the image because Nashville is where country music came from, I guess. Yeah. Even though like Texas, man, I love meeting people from Texas because when they find out I'm from Tennessee, they always want to compare about how their state is better.
There's a weird kinship. Well, and rivalry.
Yeah, there's always a rivalry in my opinion. But like with me, it seems like a one-sided rivalry. Like they care a lot about making sure everybody knows they're better than us. And we're just like, no, you're right. Yeah.
I think Texas cares a lot about that in general. Yeah. You could be from anywhere.
Well, everything's bigger in Texas, including insecurities.
Yeah, no, it definitely tracks. But yeah, like the only thing you need to pull out of your belt when they start talking shit like that is like, oh yeah, like all the guys that died at the Alamo that you remember, most of them were from Tennessee. Like you got like Davy Crockett, Daniel, but well, not one or the other. Davy Crockett, I think.
Yeah,
And a host
Davy
of
Crockett,
other Tennesseans.
I mean, per the old movies I watched, Davy Crockett went to the Alamo.
The reason we're called the Volunteer State was for that war. That was the Mexican-American War or something?
I believe so, yeah.
I'm getting a little out of my element and out of flags, but
that's what it's like having me on the show. We can fly anywhere, baby.
Exactly. Speaking of the fly side of the flag, but yeah, I really like the Tennessee flag. Again, like I said, I'd put it top 5, I think, honestly. I'm just now getting in my episodes, in this episode here, to the ones that NAVA, the North American Vexillological Association, I still have trouble with that, surveyed its members on. They did a poll a few years ago on all the Canadian provincial ones and territories and the U.S. state ones, and Tennessee came 14th overall, which I think is low, but I'll take 14th out of 72 total. I mean, Alabama got... I actually meant to bring that up too, since like I said, these are all rated. I think Alabama was, well, shoot, I can't find it. It was further down in any case. Oh, maybe I didn't see Alabama's earlier. I think it's one of the ones that we're going to cover coming up that ranked very low on that.
Well, yeah, it's a big red X. Everyone's like, no.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's honestly most of what I had written down for the Tennessee flag. It kind of has the least information out there on it, other than just like Alabama's, it has a bunch of people speculating on like, well, is it like a callback to the Confederacy type thing, etc., which I could kind of see. You could almost like animate, like do a gif of the Confederate battle flag where the like bars kind of squeeze down into a central location and eliminate all but 3 stars, spin that slightly, throw a blue thing on the fly, and then call it a day. And like I said, it came out in 1905, so not long after that Alabama one. And it was right when Tennessee was starting a lot of their Jim Crow era laws. And a little interesting tidbit about 1905, the same year we adopted this flag, was also the same year that we fully segregated streetcars. So streetcars as in like trolleys, trams, things like that, I think.
Okay. So like when you say, segregate,
fully segregated.
I was like, well, like, isn't there not the same as regular cars? I'm like, no.
We didn't segregate the cars.
Yeah. It immediately was like, oh.
Yeah. It was like, these cars can't drive on these roads. No, it was these cars can only have these passengers in a lot of cases. Or if they were a, quote, mixed one, there had to be clearly marked sections. The Rosa Parks kind of type.
Yeah, because, you wouldn't want to. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you would. Yeah, you would.
No, I just thought it was interesting. 1905, both the year this flag was adopted and the year that Tennessee segregated one more thing in a long list of things. I actually have that as a tab pulled up here. We had already segregated education a few years later. Oh, okay. We hadn't segregated all education. It would be 20 more years till we did elementary and high schools. I guess there were no middle schools back then. It was like junior high or just non-existent.
Yeah, I think I remember like actually in my lifetime when Red Bank added Red Bank Middle School, because I went to Red Bank Elementary School, and then that went up through a certain grade, and then you went to Red Bank High School, and then like a few years before they added a middle school, and so
yeah. And now that I'm reading it, it looks like it's just evolved, because in 1870 there was a statute that schools for white and colored children to be kept separate, and then however many years later, what is that, 55 years later, in 1925, they just named them as elementary and high schools. Before they were just called schools. So not a whole lot of difference. That might have been like when they started having high schools and elementary schools. And they're like, oh, we got to make sure to change the language in this to keep it separate. You got to keep them separated.
I don't know.
Good times.
I don't know that you gotta.
No, you don't got to.
I would argue against that. You gotta.
I would say, you saying the Offspring were wrong?
I'm saying you probably shouldn't. And if you think about it like this, like if you got to think like, okay, or I don't know, I was gonna go like in a deep, sort of like, if you're gonna be stuck here with everybody, you should at least make everybody's existence as comfortable and nice and as lovely as possible. There's only so much you can do, But it feels like I don't, and that's how I feel about everyone else that's not me. It's like, well, I've got to be here with them. If I had my way, I would just be on this planet by myself. But that's hard. It's a lot of work to get to that. So
Seems pretty radical.
I've decided that decided that I'm going to go the other direction and just try to make it be as nice to everyone as I can.
Yeah, there you go.
I figure that'll cause the least amount of problems. The least amount of problems is if I'm the only one. But the second runner up to that, and the more feasible and easy to pull off is I'm just not a dick.
Yeah, easy for you. I
was raised in Tennessee.
I struggle with that. Yeah. Oh, the not being a dick part, to be clear, not the other shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. it's being raised in Tennessee. I come from a long line of dicks.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Tennessee is we certainly volunteered for things. They haven't always been the right things, but whatever. I guess we can move on because, the Tennessee flag it harkens back, I think, to the Confederacy, but it doesn't it's not obvious enough to me for my tastes.
Right. It's not. Yeah. I think it gets away. It's like marginal, and it's like no, we weren't on that team.
Yeah, I want a flag that actually really goes back to the Confederacy. Maybe one like this. Can you explain? Well, not explain. You're not on the hook to explain this flag, but can you describe it? What it looks like?
So it looks exactly like the Confederate battle flag, except with a little label, I guess, like a blue label. Looks like it takes up about a third of it.
Yeah,
going down the left side vertically, and it's got a big stamp in it, just so you can't. There's no I wonder whose flag that is. It tells you it's the state of Georgia's flag.
It is, or it was anyway. But we're gonna start with it. Yeah, yeah. It's a long, proud tradition of U.S. state flags just stamping their state seal on a blue background. They did that, but they were but also the Confederate battle flag. Let's do that too.
Just so there's no question.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's no confusion at all. So yes, as you said, this was the state flag of Georgia from 1956 to 2001. And this is actually one of the ones that I think I took the most notes on, because the interesting part is before it was that, it was this, which you can see. You don't necessarily need to describe, but it's basically the same. The left third has the state seal on blue, but then instead of the Confederate battle flag on the right 2/3, it's just a top down, it looks like an Austrian flag, red, white, red.
Yeah, and this one's more, I think, calls back more to the American flag, the Union flag, I suppose.
A little, yeah, definitely more. We'll look at that too. But then in 1956, they decided to change it to that one that we first described with the battle flag on it. And when you really read into it, it was very much done on the hush-hush. The state legislatures, the state house and senate, were kind of meeting in secret sessions. There's not even very many. I'm pretty sure I have that on my notes, but there's not even very many notes of their sessions, so we don't know what was said behind these closed doors while they were turning what was a somewhat normal flag into this one.
I bet I know a few of the words that they said behind this.
Yeah, I bet you're probably right.
It'd be less jarring, I think, if that was the flag during the Confederacy.
Yeah,
the fact that it was in the 50s,
and then just kept it. Yeah,
and then it was in the 50s when they're like, no, we're going back. Why? Well, because of, and then you're going to edit all that out. But yeah, I think they said a few of those words.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this is the one that I was alluding to earlier when I said one of our future flags is from a different shitty era in American history. But yeah, the 50s, fraught with racial tension, obviously, the 50s and 60s kind of leading into that. And it's when, people of color start pushing for more rights and more rights. And then Georgia is like, oh, you want more rights? How about this? How about we're going to just throw the fucking Confederate flag on our state flag with no concern for anything else?
I'm surprised they don't do one that was just it was a sun, and then it was a setting sun, and then you see at the bottom a black ass, and then the big And then the big red Alabama X.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, like those old signs that they used to put up.
Yeah. Don't do this.
Right. And so like that's what that makes me feel is like kind of the message that they're trying to get across the entire state of Georgia. Like we're keeping this state for a select group of individuals, and if you're not in the club, get out.
Yeah. You pretty much. Anyway, in the year 2000 the state funded a report. I think it was termed as a report on the flag and its origins, basically asking them to dig through the archives and see like, hey, why the fuck did we change this back in 56? And like, who said what? And that's when they came up with like zilch for like what was said and everything. Although, as you stated, we know a few of the words, but they came up with like nothing. They did in their research come up with interviews with people who were saying,
they were like, it's heritage, definitely not hate. It's definitely heritage.
Oh yeah, that's the classic line with this flag. But yeah, they came across interviews of people saying, well, we changed it in 56 because it was just, I guess, 5 years at that point until the centennial of the Civil War. And so it was like somewhat in recognition of the Confederate soldiers and Georgia's contribution to that, et cetera, et cetera. The only problem with that story being that those accounts of, oh, we changed it to honor fallen soldiers didn't come up until like interviews in the 70s. Like interviews like much after the fact. So it's much more likely that this was just put in as the flag to like keep certain people in their place than it was to honor any fallen soldiers, anything like that.
It's like the in the modern day, it's sort of like why we're like passing mandates of which children are allowed to play which sports and stuff like it's like we just want to make it clear in case there's one of you know it just seems so like I don't know. It seems like it's like, oh, you're oddly obsessed with this thing.
It's quite a bit like that. And it's when you're too obsessed with a certain thing, like that's what that person does behind closed doors too, type thing.
It's like if there was Facebook back then, you bet that the Facebooks would be, you'd see a lot of what their opinions really are.
Oh, for sure. Like I'm sure there were a few white hoods in the closets of the people that, their opinions on this aren't recorded.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's just like the kind of like, oh, well, it was to respect dead soldiers thing was so like retrospect, whatever you want to say, so much after the fact that nobody really buys that as the reason. And there was also, actually, I wanted to get into Georgia changing their flag because, as you know, they have changed it actually twice since that one with the Confederate battle flag. They changed it once to this. Do you remember this? We live, for listener reference, we live almost right on the Georgia state line in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we do see a bunch of Georgia stuff.
Yeah, and I remember when all of this was in the news, like when them changing their flag was in the news. But I couldn't tell you what the one, if you were like, pick out the one that's the flag today, I couldn't.
Yeah, fair.
I have an idea of which one I think it is, but no. So this one's just sort of like a half measure. I feel like it's like we're gonna change the flag. We're still gonna keep the old flag as like a little icon at the bottom, and just so there's no confusion, we're gonna keep it in the same equal size as a bunch of other flags, so you know that it's still there and very important.
Yeah, it's basically they put like a history lesson of Georgia's flags on their flag, which I've said on this show before, like flags on a flag, why? Stop doing that. But this one, they were like, no, not only we're going to put flags on this flag, we're going to show them off with this like banner that walks you through. Like it's got the Betsy Ross flag with the 13 stars, then an early Georgia flag that's just got the seal, but not in a circle. Then the one before they changed it to the rebel flag one, then that one, then the U.S. flag currently. And it's just like, not only do they put flags on flags, they show it off and put words all over it.
I think it's so that they can. I think this was their attempt to like please all sides, where they're like, we don't want this way. We'll make it way small so the people who like it get something, but we'll make it small so the people who don't like it don't have to see it blown up in their face. But it's still like, it seems pretty poor taste. Like it's like if they had, like we're gonna get rid of the flag, but we're gonna hide some of those words we were saying in the meeting and in the seal, like in Latin somewhere or backwards Latin, and you say, oh look, if you hold a mic,
Right.
why is that one statue calling the other statue that?
Yeah. So yeah, they didn't even get rid of it. They're like, well, we'll make it smaller. But yeah, this flag was bad enough. It cost their governor, well, political scientists and people smarter than me in that realm, theorized that it cost him his second term. Like, he came out with this to replace the old one, which did, agreed, need replacing. But then he came out with this in 2001, and I guess there was a election in, I don't know, '02 or something, maybe '03. Okay, in 2002, and it's theorized that he lost basically a lot of it on the strength of having this become Georgia's flag. And also that that NAVA like survey of all the Canadian and US flags I talked about earlier, out of 72 flags, they ranked this one the worst in all of them. The like blue, this one. Well, it's I can see why.
Well, like the point of a flag is so that you can see what you're dealing with from far away. And like when you have tiny flags on a flag, you don't know what that is. What's the point of even them being there? You know?
There's not one.
You want pretty clear, iconography so that at a distance you go, oh, that's the Georgians. They're coming marching up over the hill to conquer Chattanooga for our drinking water. That's a throwback.
I was gonna say
news story.
Tennessee-Georgia water dispute.
Yeah, there was a period of time where Georgia was talking about annexing Chattanooga. I was like, are we going to have a second civil war over this shit?
Yeah, just a tiny little micro one or something. But yeah, so it was deemed the Barnes Rag because I forget the guy's name, but his last name was Barnes. And they basically didn't reelect him on the strength or weakness, I guess, of this. One little side note of history that I thought was interesting to go down is in 2001 when they adopt this, clearly as a stopgap measure, but when they adopt this flag, the city, or I should say town, of Trenton, Georgia. You know Trenton?
Oh, yeah.
Trenton is like part of what we always call on all of our shows, like Chattanooga's Georgia.
Right.
Like it's the part that's right across the state line. Check out their flag. Current flag.
Oh, so it's just the Georgia flag with City of Trenton Incorporated 1854 on it.
Yep.
Which I guess, I mean, well, so
the to be clear, the one with the star or the stars and bars on it. Yes. Or not the stars and bars. I think technically that's different, but the battle flag.
The one they got rid of and replaced with the way better one.
Mm-hmm.
The one that's not that didn't cost no. So when did they adopt this? Was it while that flag was the state flag?
They adopted it in 2001, which was the same.
So, like, they knew that the state flag was changing, so this is like, we'll keep it.
It's a reaction, and reactionary politically.
God, it's so cringe and tacky. Like, why?
Yeah, when Georgia changed to that one, like the mostly blue one, they were like, nah, well, our city flag is going to stay, the one with the rebel flag with City of Trenton, like you said.
Do you think when the January 6th commission thing is done and maybe they do finally like put Donald Trump behind bars that you'll see like a lot of like small, municipalities change their flag to just like the Trump 2020 or MAGA flag?
Dude, probably. It wouldn't surprise me. I went to a side note. I went to a flag store the other day because I'm going to do this exchange with @flagsession on Instagram. Free shout out, you guys. But they live in New Zealand, and they are going to send me like 3, like the main New Zealand flag, the Maori one, and the, I forget, like United Tribes one or something like that. And I'm going to send them 3 that they chose. And I was like, I live in Tennessee, but near these state lines, I can get whatever. And they wanted Tennessee, Georgia, and Mississippi. I offered South Carolina, which means they must already have it because South Carolina is badass. But anyway, so I go out to, I Google flag stores near me, obviously not expecting much. And it turns out there is one in McDonald, Tennessee, which is like from where I'm at in Ottawa, if I go like through Collegedale and then toward the middle of nowhere, there's McDonald.
I've actually, I've been to, Bryant worked a wrestling show and I took a date to that.
That makes sense.
In McDonald, Tennessee.
Yeah. But it was just like, it was like their personal house, I think. And they just had like these flags just set up in the yard and a big sign that's, forget flag something. I forget the name of their business, and it was 90% probably Trump flags like out in there. But then also a pride flag. And also,
Well, they're not political. Probably they just probably know what like their clientele is.
yeah, when I pulled up on them, I saw there was more than just the pride flag. There was a satanic temple flag. There was like, and I was like, oh, these people are just capitalists.
Right.
They know what sells locally, and so they have mostly that. So yeah, flag session. You guys can expect one of your flags came from there. And the other funny thing, just last aside about this place. So they had, I was talking to mostly the wife, the lady that worked there or that lives there, works there, and they had a Christian flag, which is like that one that's like mostly white, but it's got like blue up top and a red cross in it. You see it flown from some churches.
Yeah, I see it on a lot of license plates.
And that, and then a different flag that I'll talk about in a second, and then a Vatican City flag, and right in between those two flags, the Satanic Temple flag with the upside down pentagram, the like goat's head in it, the like little lettering and wording and shit.
Hey, next time you go back, let me know and I'll throw you some money.
Yeah, I should have asked how much, but yeah, like at the end of the day, I was like, oh, they'll sell whatever sells, and this sells, so I don't have too much of a moral quandary getting my flags from them. Plus, I bartered them way down. So anyway,
that makes you a flag haggler.
Oh shit,
You're a flagler.
A flagler? Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, and it makes them flaglers too, I guess, if they weren't already. But yeah, anyway, just to go back to the Trenton, Georgia thing, like it's just so funny to me because funny is a way to put it, but
funny the way women mean it. Just funny how.
But it's like, yeah, I just think it's funny that this town of 2,200 has, first off, any flag at all, and secondly, it's this. There are much bigger towns of 3,000-4,000 that don't have a flag. Where I live up in Ottawa, Collegedale, it's bigger than that. No flag. So Trenton really wanted it. I don't think they even had a flag before they were like, no, we're keeping that one. We'll write our name on it, and that's our city flag now, because we still want to fly the rebel flag, basically. Not that they can't just fly it. But...
It's just that kind of reactionary stuff. It just brings me back to the "Let's Go Brandon" stuff, and like to how it's just like why do you care that much about something like this? Like it'd be one thing if like, man, no, in Trenton we fought off the hordes of undesirables who were coming here to conquer us and burn our houses down and drive us away from our land, and we fought them off, and we're really proud of that. So we're gonna stake our own identity into the ground. This is just them being like, no.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
We want to keep the flag. Like there's no reason.
Mm-mm. It's exactly what you said. But we'll get off of Trenton because, like I said, town of 2,200. Other than this, there's not much to talk about. And back to the Georgia flags overall. So, like I said, that blue one, that ugly one with all the flag history at the bottom, it only lasted for better part of 2 years, from 01 to 03. And then they incorporated their current one, which is this. And you've, I'm sure, at least seen this. You probably haven't clocked like all the words on it when you drive by because they're small. But
oh yeah, no, yeah. I mean,
you want to explain that one briefly, or? So
it looks a lot like the pre racist one, I guess is the best way to put it. Except that instead of the blue stripe going all the way down it now cuts off so that the bottom red bar runs all the way across. And it's got, it looks like, is that 13 stars?
Yeah.
Yeah, 13 stars in a circle with the Georgia State seal in the middle in gold. It says Constitution across the top with a banner saying justice below that. Another banner wrapped around one thing that says wisdom, one pillar, I'm sorry. And another says moderation. And looks like a soldier, I guess. Like it looks like
he's supposed to be a Revolutionary War.
That's what I was going to say. It looks revolutionary more than like Confederate or anything. And then it says "In God We Trust" across the bottom, but which is it's like, okay, this is almost like a one that seems like, oh no, this seems like it's okay. Georgia's finally a place for everybody. And then at the bottom, "In God We Trust," to really nail in like, no, we still only want a certain type here.
Yeah, exactly to that point that you just said. Let me show you the very next one from that to that.
Yeah, so that's That one's more plain, and I think that one, like I was saying earlier, works better as a flag because from far away you just know immediately what it is. Whereas, like, say another place had like the same layout, but then had a different like seal in the middle, but it was the same color, you wouldn't know. You couldn't tell from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the exact same flag. It seems like it's just they took out the seal with the "In God We Trust" and all that. Like,
That's exactly what I was hoping you would say. Now read what that flag is.
oh, first national flag of the Confederate States of America. Boy, isn't my face red?
No, I was hoping you would say that to make this exact point, because did they change it off the Confederate thing? You could argue that they didn't.
No, yeah, I think they think they probably thought they were getting one by on us. Is what they probably thought.
I mean, yeah, look at that. Yeah, just going back and forth. Literally the only difference is like some coloration in the red and blue and the state seal. So, yeah, I mean, good on them for taking the giant rebel battle flag out of it. But then they replace it with basically the first national flag of the CSA with their seal.
It's more of a dog whistle flag.
It's definitely, yeah.
The first one was just a straight whistle. And this one's more of a dog whistle.
Yeah, they just, exactly. They made it more subtle, but they didn't really do too much.
We'll make this the wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of racism.
I mean, to be fair, yeah, like less people will see the Confederacy when they look at this current one than would have on the former one, like, for damn sure. But still, you couldn't put it any better. It's a dog whistle flag instead of just so on the nose. And that's where it stands now. The only funny things that I have to point out about it, I think it's an okay flag other than the fact that it mirrors the Confederate one. But I do like that the wisdom pillar over here has whiz and dom separated. Like, I really like the idea of the Georgia legislators getting in and be like, no, but make it say whiz dom. No, that's like, nobody will know.
That's what they call me, the whiz dom. I'm the dom who pees on everybody.
Exactly. I knew that. That's actually why I invited you for this episode. It's like, we'll get to the wisdom part and he'll get it.
It is, I mean, that shade of gold.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
This is probably the kinkiest episode. Maybe not. I haven't listened to every one you've done.
It's up there for sure. All right. So, yeah, we'll move on to our fourth and final state. We went through, what you would do if you're Alabama, and you kind of maybe sort of want to leave it ambiguous if you're hearkening back to the Confederacy. And then we went over what Tennessee did, where they kind of crammed all the stars into a circle in the middle, twisted it, and put a blue thing on the end. Then we went into what Georgia did for the better part of 50 years. So what if you want to make it even more obvious than Georgia did? Like, you want it up there, but for the long haul. You are not going to change this thing unless something crazy, say in the far off year of 2020 happens. You're going to want a flag a little bit like this. And Ian, would you be so kind?
So it's like, hey, you like Confederate flags? We took your Confederate flag and put it in a Confederate flag. I mean, it's a little different. It's definitely like, so if we're going back to that previous original flag of the Confederacy, it's got that sort of layout where it's you've got the top left square, and then you've got the bar running all the way across the bottom underneath it, except that instead of it being red, white, red, the blue one is the bar at the top. And I guess that's to replace the square that normally would be blue. It's now just a Confederate battle flag. So it's like literally just like, no, we're going to make this ultra Confederate. Yeah. This is like Super Saiyan Confederate.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think the only reason that top bar is blue is, like you said, to just kind of like balance it a little bit. Because now that this is majority red in the Canton. Yeah. Yeah, so you know what flag this is, I assume.
Yeah, so this is Mississippi.
This was Mississippi, yes.
Was Mississippi.
Yeah, well, I worded that badly. But this was Mississippi from more or less 1894. They did change up the colors, and at a certain point they kind of fimbriated the canton a little bit with like white. But more or less continually from 1894 to 2020. And again, 1894, going back to that date, like how I said Alabama introduced theirs in 1895, it was this kind of Lost Cause era, a lot of Jim Crow laws being enacted. And so a lot of like, it's also like that era, we talk about all the Confederate monuments that have been coming down thankfully in the last like 10-ish years. those don't come from when the Confederacy was actually, a thing. Those come from the early 1900s and a lot from like the 40s like from the 50s. And for a reason, because it's like you said, like put people in their place, like only certain types of people welcome here type reasons. And yeah, the Mississippi flag makes that clear. For how many years is that? That's 126 years that they had that. Pretty good track record. Any thoughts aesthetically?
Not for me.
No?
Not for me. If I was to pick a flag, it probably wouldn't be that one.
Yeah, me neither. It's been fraught. Like it was changed in 2020, but that wasn't like nearly the first time there were replacement efforts. There was one in 2001, which I actually kind of like. We won't go over this one, but I actually kind of like that. It's a little throwbacky in a bad way, but it's better. In 2015, a few other times before they finally settled on what they have now. But keeping on the one that they formerly had before 2020, it was really George Floyd's murder that got them to finally change that. It wasn't any of the myriad things that have happened in the meantime. None of that really struck a nerve, I guess, enough to at least get the people of Mississippi proper up in arms enough to internally want to change the flag. So that's what it took. After George Floyd, Walmart announced that it would stop selling the flag and stop hanging it in their stores.
That's probably good.
Yeah, and that's Walmart. Every public university in Mississippi also stopped hanging the flag anywhere, which, like these are like government, like technically government buildings. So for them not to fly it kind of moves the needle finally on a little bit of something. And
probably politicians who didn't really care figure like, ooh, this is a way to earn some points. And probably that's what really prompted the change.
Yeah, mostly.
If I were to guess, I don't know those people. I've never met them. There probably were some good people behind it, but like probably also people were like, ooh, if I like act like I care about this is something I can get done, that I can say I got done, that has a lot of public support.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And like it took till 2020 for here, just as a random example that I'm reading on the page now, for the Mississippi Baptist Convention to condemn it. So like it took entirely too long. And then, like you said, people trying to score political points. It's not the best intended, change, but it's still appreciated.
Like part of me also, like I get like on like a small level, like why you might feel like you're just stuck that way. Cause like, even though like the Tennessee flag isn't like flagrantly offensive, I don't think, maybe marginally if you look for it. But I thinking about like, say I wanted it to change. What could I do? I could write my, local representatives and hope that moves the ladder up there. But like,
yeah,
so I can imagine how a lot of people probably felt for a long time is, well, it sucks that that's what it is, but that's what it is. And changing it is so above my head that,
yeah.
And so that's just, part of me doesn't like, I definitely don't condemn like everyone who's lived in that state through that amount of time. But like, definitely a lot of people who have been in charge are culpable, I think.
Oh yeah, it's like almost entirely that. It's that feeling of, what can I do unless there's like a state actual like referendum already on this, which in 2020 there finally was. So when they were redesigning it, they had two specific things in mind, two specific things that the redesign had to have or not have. The first was, it was required that it say "In God We Trust" on it. And the second was, it was required that it not have the Confederate battle flag. They didn't just want to redesign it like Georgia did and just make it smaller at the bottom. So, one of those I'm on board with, one not as much, but you know what? Fuck it. You took the Confederate battle flag off there. That's cool. And what they ended up with, they had 5 finalists. You can kind of see there. But what they ended up with is what I believe is the best one, which is this. And if you would briefly go over that one.
So it's a thick, I presume more than 6 inches vertical. Looks like a navy blue bar down the middle with 2 smaller gold bars on each side of it, and then filling out the rest of the flag are vertical red bars, which probably I'd say if the blue bar is 6 inches, I'd say the red bars are about 3.
Yeah, probably somewhere in there.
A number of stars. I don't know how to count, but they're on. It's a circle of stars.
They're 20. I did it beforehand.
20 with the top center one being a gold star, and then In God We Trust making up the bottom of the circle with a white flower in the middle with what looks like a gold. I forget my flower parts. Is it
Me too?
The stem,
the middle part.
Is it the stamen? It's where the pollen comes from.
Yeah, the bit with the pollen.
The little pollen ball.
It's a magnolia blossom. So, listeners can Google that. Or I guess they can Google the flag. But yeah, Google that word too and let us know in the comments. Yes, I actually really like this flag. Despite a few things that I don't tend to like.
It's pretty tasteful. The flower is a little weird. I guess I get it.
Yeah, that's one of the few things I don't. Not in love with.
Yeah, and I don't love the In God We Trust because I don't want the government. To me, it's just a separation of church and state thing.
Same. Yeah, agreed.
I don't like that being on any official government stuff, even though it's on our money. But that's a whole nother discussion.
Oh yeah.
But no, generally speaking, I think of any of the changes we've seen, even considering Tennessee's changes, this is the one that moves away from the sort of dog whistly flag the most. And this is the one that's the most we don't want anything to do with that last flag.
Yeah.
That one was so over the top and existed for so long. We're going to do the biggest overcorrection on it. Which I wouldn't even call it an overcorrection. I think when you're that far off course, any correction is probably better than nothing. But this one definitely is the least still racist in my opinion. Although maybe there's connotation with the magnolia. Maybe the bars mean something that I don't know. Maybe the circle is meant to be like the OK circle. I don't know. But
I think it predates. Actually, no, it doesn't predate that.
No.
It was 2020. Yeah. I really like this one. I've gotten to the point, I guess, just from doing this podcast and doing the research for this podcast, that how you get songs stuck in your head. Everyone gets songs stuck in your head or whatever. I've started getting flags stuck in my head, and I had this one stuck in my head the other day for no, I don't know, good reason, I guess, other than I just couldn't get it out of my head because like I said, I kind of like it.
You got a little flag on the brain?
I did, yeah. Yeah, despite the everything that you said, the In God We Trust I could do without, and then just maybe space the stars separately and just lose that. A simplified maybe version of the magnolia.
Yeah, because again, it still seems like it's not a bad picture of it, but it just seems more detailed than what you want from far away.
Yeah, because we talk on this pod about you want kids to be able to draw the flag reasonably well to reproduce it and everything, and they could do a simplified version of that, but just make that the simplified version, in my esteemed opinion, I guess. But and then I was also thinking about why I like this flag so much, and I got down to it, and I was like, I think the blue, red, and gold are pretty similar to the flag colors that I'm going to use for the Flagged for Content flag.
Oh.
And I was like, maybe that's why I like it so much.
Well, navy blue, white, and gold were the colors of my high school. So the red is not part of that, but it's it does feel like it's if you were going to go to the Walmart in Saudi Daisy and buy your 4th of July gear, you'd probably find some high school ones that have some of those colors mixed in.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That kind of stuff. Or you want to get a high school T-shirt, but there's also patriotic. It's kind of the vibe I get off of it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it was the result of a competition, which they had 5 finalists for. They ended up picking that one, although you can kind of see here, I don't think it gets much better if I click it, but they made the yellow gold bars whiter and the red a little bit to move into the middle. And it's actually got what's called, I learned this researching this, but a Canadian pale, which sounds like a beer. But a pale is if you think of the French or Italian flags, how they're 3, but they're all equal, a third, a third, a third.
Right.
Canadian pale is when the middle one is I don't know the ratio, but slightly bigger, and then the 2 on the sides are smaller, so that you can show off a logo better. And it's the only U.S. flag that does that has that, which is little cool bit of trivia if you guys go to bar trivia and they got flag questions. But Oh, incidentally, I meant to mention this. Tennessee is the only flag that does that thing on the edge, so that when it falls limp, it.
That's probably why it feels so weird. It's just
Yeah.
because you don't see it so often.
Yeah, you never really see it on U.S. flags. But yeah, that's the current Mississippi one. They followed Nava on the design, or at least the winning designer did, in that it should only have 3 main colors tops. Avoid words, which they didn't quite do, but they had "In God We Trust." Like they had that as a rule that it had to be on there, and a few other things, design principles. Oh yeah, no color on color, which is why they have the gold separating the red and the blue. But yeah, it looks very modern too. It looks very 2020 to me. Whereas a lot of these state flags just, I mean, some are timeless, like our Tennessee flag here.
Right. Yeah. It's just really good branding. But
some look very outdated, and this is definitely not one of those. And it's officially referred to as either the New Magnolia flag or the "In God We Trust" flag. And there are only 3 flags in the U.S. that have "In God We Trust" on them. Do you know them? You know 2 of them because we've gone over them.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the third.
The third one is Florida, I believe. I should know before I say that. Yeah, it is Florida. Which I actually had Florida kind of on the list to go over today, but 1, it's very similar to Alabama's, and 2, I think correctly, that we would probably be like short on time. All right, and yeah, with that, we will end on the Mississippi flag, which I guess I got to give, like, if I could give an award to a flag, it would probably be most improved.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I guess Tennessee would be most timeless because it doesn't seem like it needs to change.
I think so. We're biased, but I think so.
Yeah, and then, like, Mississippi's old flag is most racist.
Yeah.
With Georgia getting the next 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Alabama, just no.
It's on the list.
Just no. It's the big red X. I'm just saying, yeah, Alabama, just no.
Yeah, just say no to the Alabama flag, as many Alabamians have. And that's it. That's where we wrap today. So wanted to go over a few, especially after our Pantera conversation on Boomer Memes, a few of the Confederate flags, and I think we nailed the main ones, the main contenders for that kind of throne anyway. So we'll wrap up, and Ian, do you want to let people know where they can find and follow you?
Yeah, I've made it super easy. You can find everything I do at iansharpcomedy.com. Just plug that into your browser. It'll take you right to a link tree. You can find Boomer Memes, the newest episode Andrew's on, and which this one will come out. Is this one coming out?
I'm shooting for Monday.
For Monday. So yeah, so then it should come out before the next one. So that is still an accurate statement. So the newest episode you're on, it's just a lot of wacky nonsense. It's like if you take like me talking out of context on this show and just made a whole show of that, that's what Boomer Memes is.
Yeah.
And you can come out to if you're in the Chattanooga area, come out to some local open mics. If you're not in the Chattanooga area and you want to see some good comedy, there's ways to contact me at Ian Sharp Comedy, and maybe let me know, and I'll try and come to the place you live and perform out there. I try to go everywhere, so that's really the best plugs I got right now.
Yeah, right on, dude. I can say firsthand, Ian is a great comic. If you are local, go out and see him. Listen to Boomer Memes. They are doing video now, which I know you didn't mention, but
right, yeah, we have a YouTube channel, so that's use that Ian Sharp Comedy to find your way to the Boomer Memes YouTube channel and subscribe. We need subscribers.
Right, fair enough.
It's a very small channel right now,
and that actually allows me to segue into my plugs, which we also have a very small YouTube channel right now. Go ahead and subscribe on there. At a certain point, I will start to get a little bit more integration with the video stuff. Right now, it's mostly just the audio from the episodes, but I'll get on that, and like when we start talking about a flag, I'll have it flash up on the screen or stay up on the screen, blah, blah, blah. Only other things, yeah, go to flagged.rocks, FLAGGED.rocks. Not quite as professional as Ian is with my website names, so you can go there. That gets you to my link tree, which has pretty much all our social media and everything like that. But if you do want to go directly to our social media, that is at flagged4 content, and you can find everything like that there. And yeah, I guess that's the end of the show. I am historically bad at outroing this thing, so Ian, I've been getting the guests to kind of give me like a little something at the end here. So how would you like to send this thing off today?
How about this? How about just like an old racist flag, we're out of time.
That's perfect. Yeah, no notes on that one. And yeah, thanks for listening, y'all. This has been Flagged for Content. Bye.